What up? DJ Platurn, Oakland Faders, 45 Sessions, here repping with my family, ADP.FM. All day play, baby. I've been DJing for a very long time. This is a factual statement. And when I got started, the premise of technology involved in DJing was kind of a far-fetched concept. It was still very much, everything had to be plugged in and everything had to have access to, the simplest forms of analog approach, right? And so your needles had to work and, your gear had to work. Like there was nothing, the concept of internal and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, point being is how far we have come technology-wise is probably the ultimate deciding factor, right, in terms of how much DJing has changed over the years. And that's everything from, the equipment that you use to the ease of access to, the music at play and using social media to, get the word out about your events or yourself or whatever, to literally anything. Technology has made things a lot easier. And that's a relatively obvious statement. But for a lot of people that were used to DJing being, to an extent, some backbreaking work over time, there's a lot of aspects that we welcome, of course. There's without a doubt, and especially if you've just been banging up your body for decades, right? But there is the ease of access thing that has changed so much of people's relationship with music. And that is a really, really big factor that is, a bit of a discrepancy in terms of our relationship with music and our relationship with fans and the relationship with the crowd when you're playing for them, the whole nine. Like it's changed a lot of things, some good, some bad. There are a lot of aspects that I dig. I'm here playing records today, but I'm also a huge proponent of utilizing tech to make things easier and more clever and interesting in the whole nine. But I don't necessarily agree with the fact that just because that is the case, that anybody can step in and take part in what this is. I think it's really important and I think it's super valuable and it's a lot of fun, obviously, to be able to share music with the people in front of you, the world as a whole, the whole nine, but there still is an aspect to what it is that we do DJ-wise that should be taken seriously and should be regarded in terms of, an art form and a job and some work, that takes a lot of time and effort to put your back into. It can't just be this instant thing that anybody can step into and come up with a name but it happens. So, who am I to say? But anyway, that's my stance on the situation. So tech is a very welcome, but also it can be, kind of the devil in disguise in a lot of ways, with art in general, I think, and DJing for sure. So yes, absolutely. And again, in some similar ways, but some different ways, it has improved a lot of aspects. It's amazing that, you can come out of your bedroom and connect with the world in easier ways now, both again through social media, but also, you look at this gorgeous studio here with all this modern stuff that we're able to do this super cool shit. It's so dope. But again, I feel like if you're gonna go out and be a fan of what it is that we do, I think to an extent it is also your job to educate yourself about what it is that you're viewing in front of you. And that's also the music that you're listening to, the whole nine. It can't, everything can't and shouldn't be so surface level. Because music is important and it's valuable and it's educational and it's super powerful. And it shouldn't just be this thing that we consume idly, while walking through our lives, you know what I mean? Like there's so much messaging in music and there's so many important factors that are really, really valuable to our lives and our experience as humans. And so just taking everything at surface is kind of cheapening the whole thing, you know what I mean? So if you're a fan, absolutely, consume as much as you like and as much as you want. But at the same token, it's important for you just know what is this? What is this sound that's here? Where does it come from? What is that instrument? Or what is, blah, blah, blah. It can be literally anything, right? But ultimately, in my eyes, I think the history aspect of it all has always been something that I've just been a huge proponent of, is understanding what this is and why it is and where it comes from and what the inspiration behind it is, So education and entertainment, I've always kind of lived in both of those worlds and thought that, just thought that embracing, both of those aspects it heightens your experience as a music lover. So, yeah. Not everything should be just fly by. Like, it's not just air that's breezing by you. This is art. These are like deep and very thoughtful creations that people are putting their whole, lives into. And so, yeah, regard it as such. So the 45s thing is a blast, and there's multiple reasons why 45s are a lot of fun. And one of the big things that I actually really enjoy about playing sevens and either putting together a concept set or just freestyling it is that it is still a challenge, And I dig that, not just because I always want things to be a little difficult. Obviously, that's not the case. Nobody wants that. I'm not signing up for that, but I do like the idea that you just got to put a little bit more thought into, and this obviously goes back to how we had to piece our sets together back in the day when we were kind of first getting started, at least my generation, but, clearly a little bit in front and some before, where you had to sit there, go through your records, pick them out, figure out what's going to work, da-da-da-da-da. I still really enjoy all of that, I really dig that aspect. And I think it does actually elevate, not only the listening experience, but also just, what you're viewing and what you're seeing, the DJ in front of you doing, is, it's clear that they're not just, and that's the end of it, what I mean? Like, you gotta go through the shit and like, it just looks like it's much more of a thoughtful experience. And with the sevens, it's even more challenging because they're small and they're flimsy and they're short. They don't last as long, and so you got to be much quicker, and especially if you're trying to rock doubles and the whole nine. So yeah, 45s for me is probably the most fun, but I love a lot of aspects of DJing and so many different types of it. I think a lot of it really just comes down to the environment and what you're being asked to do. What you're being asked to showcase. But yeah, if I had to pick one, yeah, play the sevens. Friends back to back, but hands down, for sure, absolutely, way more fun. The interactive aspect, absolutely. Not to say that it's not funded, for me now, it's crazy. Like, the idea of just like playing 4, 5, 6 hours by yourself for a night or whatever, just seems incredibly daunting, man. And I still do it, like, I still do vinyl sets, that are 4 to 5 hours long by myself, and that's a lot, and it's a little less challenging when you're just on the laptop and can play, easily pull up a 15-minute house track or whatever and just let it breathe, right? But yeah, the interactive aspect of actually playing with other DJs, yeah, for sure, dude, by far is much more fun in my eyes. So yeah, the genuine, heartfelt love for the music that you are actually putting out there should be the first and foremost rule of what it is that you're doing. And that can be some corny, whack, top 40 shit. I don't give a fuck. Like, you gotta believe in it, And that might not be necessarily the case or has to be the ethos every single time that you play. But, like, if you're just doing, whatever, a restaurant gig or just some, regular ass, club, whatever. Like, yeah, just play whatever it is that you need to play to make that check, of course, by all means. But your personality and what you decide to put into what you are trying to convey yourself to the world as an artist / DJ, you really gotta believe that shit, man. Like, believe in the music that you're pushing. And I know that might seem kind of obvious, but obviously, that's not the case. A lot of people go to work to jobs that they fucking hate. And and it's the same thing with DJing, but like, why would you do that? Like, music is so personal for me, and it is for most people. But when you're a DJ and your job is literally to play other people's music, you know, along with potentially your own, you know, put some backbone into you know, why it is that you're choosing this over that, and you know, all of that. So yeah, just like we were saying, you know, you gotta work with intent. It's really important when you do art is to have some sort of intent behind what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, right? So yeah. Look, if your objective is to actually set yourself apart and make a name for yourself and make a statement for yourself as an actual, you know, real legit like tastemaker that has something substantial and worthwhile to add to the conversation of DJing and playing music out for people, then just being fucking lackadaisical about all that shit, dude, it's like, you're not gonna go anywhere with that. You're not. No one's gonna take you seriously. You know what I mean? Like, have something to say. Back it up. A really tasteful and well produced and, you know, executed remix, edit, mashup, the whole nine, love it. All for it, right? That's a DJ and a producer putting their personality into something, right? When that shit sucks, it just like, please, dude, like spare the world, you know what I mean? Do not force people into that. And like, I know that's, you know, music is subjective, the whole nine, of course, right? But there's so much just bad shit out there, man. There really is. But there's a lot of really good stuff. There's a lot of really good stuff, and a ton of it doesn't get played. But I think the main thing is tasteful. Like, and again, that might be a subjective term as well, but I don't think overdoing any aspect, and especially like the main thing for me when you're talking about a remix is be respectful to the original, especially if the original is exceptional, right? You know, whatever, just don't butcher it to death, don't overdo it. Out of tune, out of key, you know, mashups or whatever, please, you know, put that away. Like, we have all the technology in the world to not do that now, and you still hear really bad shit come out. And yeah, fucking sue me, guys, dude. I've never been one to mince, you know, like, I'll tell it like it is. I mean, that's really like, you know, especially if you're a DJ, not necessarily a producer, and you're tinkering with like making edits or any kind of remix stuff or blends or mashups or whatever, man, you really like, you know, take that seriously as well. Like, don't just think that it's, you know, looping up the intro once and then, you know, it's a edit, right? Or even just like putting, you know, some shitty new sounding drums over a 40-year-old song or whatever. That's not dope. Like, it's not dope. Like, you gotta really like go to, what is it that I can do to actually help elevate this song versus just, you know, put my own, you know, silly spin on it. Yeah, anyway, yeah, there's a lot of no-nos, but yeah, I'm all for it, man. You know, if it's done well, please, you know, put it, yeah, you know, let us have it, because DJs love that shit, dude. Like, we love it when somebody actually brings something super dope and breathes new life into you know, something classic or whatever. I mean, first and foremost, the reason I even started getting into hip hop and DJing in any sort of way is Jam Master Jay. Like, you know, first record I ever bought with my own money was Raising Hell. Run DMC, first major influence on me back in '85, you know, 3 years into moving to the United States and just looking for any sort of musical voice to, you know, bring it in my own scope or whatever, you know, Run DMC was it, right? And it was for a lot of people, but Jam Master Jay, just listening to him on the recordings and then obviously watching him in a lot of the videos and some of the live stuff, you know, when you were a kid, was just like, dude, this guy is a fucking wizard, you know, like, what the hell is even going on here? Over the years, like, I met him one time and he was the nicest dude imaginable, super cool cat. I still have the drop that he gave me, you know, for like, this was, when was this, 94, 95 probably. I found the tape the other day, which is wild, because it was on one of those like mini recorder things that had the built-in mic and whatnot. And the recorder had stopped working. Now I remember this. And I found a small recorder for like $2 at the flea market. I was like, I hope this works. And I took it back and I went through some of the old tapes and I found the Jam Master Jay drop on there. So, damn, that was pretty saucy. Anyway, so Jay is by far, if I had to pick one, like the biggest influence on me in terms of getting into DJing. And then, you know, for lack of time and just not fucking it up so that I miss some names, like really, my closest friends who are also DJs, I would say to this day are probably the most important and most influential people to me, as far as like real direct and super personal influence and support, right? Because I have so many homies, like we've been in this game forever, man. All of you, dude, all of you guys too, man, like endless, you know? I could go on forever, not just about Bay Area DJs, but, you know, throughout the States and the world over. But for me, you know, I've got a handful of dudes that are in my crews and that have just been very dear friends for a real long time. And if I just shouted out the main top three off top, it would be Joe Quicks. Look him up if you don't know who the fuck he is. Eda Boss, Eric Boss, and Enki. And Enki's kind of out of the game a little bit, but he still pops up on occasion. And, you know, Quicks is in the Faders, and you know, Boss and Enki are in the Sessions. And these guys are all, like my three best friends that I love dearly. And they've always been with me support-wise, you know, in terms of what it is that I do, and I reverse that same intent with them, you know what I mean? Like, I'm their biggest fucking fans, and I'm vouch for them every day, all day. So, yeah, if I really had to call it, you know what I mean? Like, the big influences that mean the most to me, it would be, yeah, that's actually really funny when you put it that way. Joe Quicks, Eric Boss, DJ Enki, and Jam Master Jay. You guys made the list, homies. You made the list with Jay, so yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, man, shout out to like just the DJ community as a whole. Some of the best people I've ever met in my whole entire life, dude. Some of the most beautiful and well-intended artists that I've ever come across the world over are just super dope fucking DJs that are really, really inspiring and just beautiful people in general, man. I really like, I think DJs that walk with intent are very, very special and you know, meaningful and worthwhile people on this planet. So, because we just want to spread joy, man. We just want to play music, play good shit, you know, see people smile. No matter what it is that you're playing, you know what I mean? Like, your intent is to share music that you love and hope that the people you're playing it for love it too. I mean, how fucking cute is that? Like, that's adorable. Add Pam to the list, please, because I miss my sister very, very dearly. There's a very, very solid reason as to why she is, yeah, just on next to my heart while we do this today. So yeah, love you, Pam, miss you. What makes a song perfect for me to play out? I am a very big proponent of melodies that stick in your head. And that could be something as simple as, you know, just a basic little whatever, you know, keyboard riff or whatever that goes over some, you know, truncated drums, whatever, you know what I mean? But it's an interesting thing. I remember this very, very succinctly from my youth and growing up, because my pops was a DJ back in the day. And he was on the radio and he would play music at events. You know, this is 70s or whatever, so they're just, you know, got the little setup out and he's just, you know, dropping the needle, just playing, you know, one song. It's not obviously anything mixing going on or whatever, but then he was on the radio and the whole nine, and he would talk about this all the time. He would talk about how the, you know, timeless music that actually makes its way through the ages and really lasts is stuff that has memorable melodies, right? And one of the beautiful things that I always latched onto in terms of hip hop music was that the art of lifting loops or samples or making your own chops or the whole nine is coming up with dope riffs that really stick with you, right? And so it translates over to the same premise. And so when you think about even something as straightforward as like the horns from They Reminisce Over You, right? Ultimate, like instantly recognizable or whatever, right? But there's something very specific, and this is why you have to give props to producers and DJs that have these impeccable ears, right? You know, dudes like Prince Paul and Q-Tip and all these dudes, you know, Dre and all these cats, you know, that just have like perfect ears in terms of what they hear on a record when they're sampling something, right? I don't know, it's like an uplifting thing that you just gotta give a ton of love to, because when you listen to the OG, for instance, right, you listen to Today by Tom Scott, which is the sample to Pete Rock's and CL Smooth's They Reminisce Over You. When that riff comes in, no matter how many times you listen to that song, you get a feeling, right? And when you listen to the song, you listen to the structure or listen to how that OG is produced, and you think about what a hip-hop producer is actually looking for, it just makes perfect sense, because you just go like, yes, it's fucking obvious why he took that part over anything and why he pieced it together the way that he did. And it's because something strikes you, you know, something just hits you, right? And our generation, like that riff will forever live in our minds, right? Until we're old, decrepit, ready to go out, you know what I mean? Like that thing is just gonna stick with us. And there's a lot of examples, I'm just using one, but melody, and melody that just, I don't know, haunts you, stays with you, you know, really resonates with you and stays in your head, but also makes you feel a certain way, dude. Like that's just some hip hop shit as far as I'm concerned, you know? And that's why, like, you know, you talk about artists or people, like they love to mention, you know, whose music is gonna live forever, right? So you're like, fucking what, Beethoven and Michael Jackson are like in the same room, you know what I mean? And so it's music from 400 or 500 years ago to music that is, you know, just decades old, but we know damn well like MJ's music is gonna live for thousands of fucking years more than likely, right? And it's because those melodies are just absolutely undeniable and they really strike you, right? So yeah, melody is key, man, that's it. Melody is key, get it? We are going to showcase Sly's and the Family Stone's catalog in my style. So I'm gonna play, you know, obviously a lot of his music and the Stones' music, because he did have a solo career, let's not forget that. And, you know, play some covers, probably a lot of covers, because Sly was immensely influential the world over. Probably one of the most influential, like when people talk about Sly and his, you know, streak of seminal, most important albums, it was an era in music where he was basically the purveyor of change, you know, not only in terms of how to approach just pop music in general, because he was wildly popular. You know, he had a string of hits that were, you know, Billboard huge sellers, the whole nine. But he didn't follow anybody's rules, you know what I mean? Like that was the whole thing, is that he literally brought his own everything into what he did, and everyone was like, holy shit, I want to be like that, you know? And that was everything down to the group too, being, you know, obviously both men and women, but, you know, very mixed in terms of background. He just passed. He was an older gentleman, been through a lot in life. The documentary just dropped not too long ago. If you haven't seen it, it's incredible. Basically what I'm gonna do today is essentially what I pieced together when I did the release party for the doc when it came out a few months ago, right? So I haven't practiced it in a minute, might be a little sloppy, but yeah, that's basically the breakdown. So I got a ton of love for this cat. He's just been, you know, a huge voice for my approach to music also, just because of his fearlessness for, you know, my whole life, man. You know, Sly was, Fresh was forever being played in my house when I was growing up as a kid, which was a weird thing, you know, for an extremely white family in Iceland when I was a total, you know, just like a little toddler, to just be blasting Sly out of the speakers, dude. My pops was that dude. I just love him so much and everything that he stood for, and will continue to stand for. Like, he's another one of those voices that I think is just gonna last absolutely forever. So shout out to Carmena, his daughter, you know, amazing human being. Shout out to the V. I live in Vallejo. I live 5 minutes from where he grew up as a kid. And actually high school and college too. He went to grade school, junior high, high school, and Solano Community College the whole time that he lived in Vallejo. So, you know, Bay legend, absolutely love the man. And yeah, rest in peace, Sly Stone, man. I'll do my best to showcase his genius today, so that's it. What up? DJ Platurn, Oakland Faders, 45 Sessions, here repping with my family, ADP.FM. All day play, baby.